used to wonder, why they say my slave name? And for me, the reason why Melvin Ray is my slave name is because of the 13th Amendment. And where it says neither slavery nor involuntary servitude except as punishment for crime. Um, that's the name that I was made a slave under. That's the name that I was convicted under in the courts of the United States. And according to the 13th Amendment, slavery is still legal in the United States when you are convicted of a crime. So Melvin Ray is my slave name, and Bennu Hannibal is the name that I fight for my freedom under. It's the name that I became conscious of the fact that I am a slave. Malcolm X said it is not the job of the conscious to make the unconscious conscious, but it is the job of the conscious to make the unconscious aware of their unconsciousness so that they can become conscious. And so I became aware of my unconsciousness. And so my conscious name is Bennu Hannibal Ra-Sun. Just like Malcolm X went from Malcolm Little to Malcolm X, he became conscious. Conscious now. And so it's about 7:30 in the morning. I'm in solitary confinement. And the thing I want to speak on this morning is Free Alabama movement, Black Lives Matter, Black leadership in this country, politicians, public officials, and just a few things I want to reflect on as I'm sitting here in this solitary confinement cell at William E. Donaldson Prison. William E. Donaldson Prison probably has the highest black population in the state, probably has the highest percentage of black officers in the state. This is the black prison. This is the prison that they gave to the black community. These are the jobs that the black community was awarded somewhere along the line in one of these administrations. This was a payoff, the trade-off for the black vote. The black community in Bessemer got their own prison. And we got 3 black wardens here, Warden Bowling, Leon Bowling, Warden Angela Marie, and the new warden. His name slips my mind right now. It'll come to me though. But Pickens, Warden Pickens. And when Dr. King fought integration, what I see, everyone says that integration didn't serve America well. But I don't think that that's what Dr. King fought for. I think that what Dr. King and them made their sacrifices for was for black people to get in these positions and become vanguards, become the eyes and the ears of the wrongdoing, to become the morality of a system that was immoral. Black people were not allowed to sit on juries. So through the civil rights movement, we were able to get black people on juries. But the vision was for these black people to get on these juries and protect us against the system, because it only takes one vote to stop an injustice. But we see all these black people in prison, scared to go to trial because we can't get a fair trial. The jury, we see we see with the situation with Doug Valeska right now, where the police, the prosecutors, and everyone was manufacturing evidence that it's got thousands of people in prison unlawfully. We see the situation with the forensic people in Oklahoma, Nebraska, New York, all around the country. We see all of this. And so you have to ask, like in Texas, when you had the narcotics guy go in and basically wiped out a whole black community manufacturing drug cases. And you have to wonder, how do we have a system, a judicial system, where the judge is supposed to be impartial, the prosecutor is supposed to be impartial, the defense attorney is supposed to be fighting for the defendant, and the jury is supposed to be able to weigh this. And yet we have thousands of people who are impacted in Alabama, thousands in Oklahoma and Nebraska, thousands in New York, thousands in, we got the judge just being convicted, I think in Philadelphia, for selling kids for cash. How come the system can't identify these problems? Why do people like Anthony Ray Hinton have to do 30 years in prison before something to be corrected, which should have been corrected? He never should have been convicted. And that's where I see the failing of integration, is that black people, when we didn't have these positions, the system was able to do what they wanted to do with us. And now that we're in position because of integration, we're not doing what we're supposed to do to protect each other. Like with the Black Lives Matter movement, I remember when they showed them going to the Bernie Sanders rallies and interrupting his speech, and I feel like we should be not trying to hold white people accountable, but we should be trying to hold the black politicians and people accountable. Why are you not standing up? Why is it that there's only one black politician in the state of Alabama standing up against the death penalty when we see the vast majority of wrongful convictions on capital punishment are black people? The vast majority of people over prosecuted are black people. The vast majority of people being executed are innocent blacks. The vast majority of people who are proven their innocence are black. So why is it that we only have one black politician standing up against the death penalty in Hank Sanders? See, this is what Free Alabama movement is attempting to do. We're not trying to just attack the system or whatever you want to call it, whatever revolution or all this. We're trying to get the black people to hold themselves accountable. That's why we waged the campaign against Warden Carter Davenport. He's in a position of power, but he's using his power, and as our friend Scotty Reed of Black Talk Radio say, he became a proxy racist. You became a white man literally in blackface, and he was abusing people, and he was assaulting people, and he had a regime that allowed for abuses and assaults. And so we went up with our Davenport Must Go campaign, because, as Carter G. Woodson said, the double-minded consciousness is in full effect. See, that's the part of integration. That's where the system has failed. Our people have gotten into the system, and instead of being the vanguard for the people, they became the system. In South Carolina, when Walter Scott was killed, the first person on the scene with that white officer to start the cover-up was a black officer. He the first one there. But what if he had pulled his gun out and told that officer, freeze, you under arrest for murder. You just murdered an innocent man. And the officer made a move and he shot and killed that white officer. Think about how different these protests we're doing would be if we start protesting and outing these black people who have become proxy racists, who have become double-minded conscious, who have become a part of the system instead of being the vanguard that Dr. King and them sacrificed for. I think that that's what we have to start directing our energies to, directing our questions to, directing our dialogue to, directing our anger at, because this is the failing of the system. The system was already racist in its inception. And so when our people fought to be allowed to become a part of this system, to become the vanguards, to become the eyes and ears of the people, then the failing is when our people stop doing their job. It is not the system. The system was already a failure. That's the reason why we had to fight. That's the reason why we had to sacrifice. That's the reason why Malcolm X is not here. That's the reason why Marcus Garvey, Fannie Lou Hamer, Winnie Mandela. That's the reason why these people made the sacrifices that they made. I remember reading lawsuits when we came to prison and we were being taught the law by James McConaughey and the people that taught us under him, Akbar and, Bobby Carter, Chalmers Wright. When these guys, these scholars were teaching us, our elder, Mr. Mafandi, when they pulled those law books out and they showed, there's a case in the Alabama law books where there were no black officers working for the DOC. And these guys were going up against the Ku Klux Klan in these officer uniforms. They were fighting racists and stuff. And so they were fighting to get black officers into the system. And this is in the law books. And they were filing lawsuits. And there were people that lost their lives, inmate for action, guys who sacrificed on the front line to come up out from under the oppression that they were under, trying to get black officers in to make things better. 30 and 40 years ago, 45, 50 years ago. And here we are, 45, 50 years later. They didn't fight so that a black officer can be a lieutenant, because there was none. A black officer to be a captain, because there was none. A black officer to be a warden, because there was none. A black officer to be a commissioner, because there was none. They didn't make those fights so that when the black officers come, then you have a Davenport, then you have a Lieutenant Carter, then you have a Kendrick Gaston, or Officer Phillips, or a Officer Binder, or an Officer Gunn. They didn't fight so that these black officers would then come and become a part of the system. And they want to be Bull O'Connor. They want to be Bull Connor. They want to be the one to hit a black person over the head with a stick, or to sick a dog or water hose on. But that's not what these sacrifices were made for. These sacrifices were made so that we could get black people in to be the eyes, the ears, the morality of the system, to hold the system accountable, so that when a person is beaten, a black officer could be there and say, no, that officer used excessive force. That man had his hands up. No, Walter Scott did not roll that window up and drag you. Walter Scott jumped out of that car and took off running, and you executed him. That's what integration was designed for, But that's not the way that is working today, 45, 50 years later, even in politics. The NAACP, the Congressional Black Caucus, the Black Caucus here in Alabama, and the Black caucuses around the country. These people, these positions were fought for so that they can get up there and expose what's going on. But instead of exposing what's going on, we're seeing too many proxy races. We're seeing too much double-minded consciousness. Over time, we're seeing too many people being drawn in, and we, the grassroots, are not holding them accountable. We quick to point out what Jeff Sessions did 20 years ago, or we quick to point out the things that we disagree with Donald Trump. We quick to point out Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton. But when are we going to start pointing out these black leaders who ain't doing their job? Who are not being the vanguard, who's standing on the shoulders of the struggles and sacrifices of our great leaders of the past. That's the only time that that's the only value that the vote has for us as black people, because we're such a minority in this country. The vote is only going to allow us to put people with integrity in these positions to hold the system accountable, because we know they'll all come together and do their super majorities and outvote us. But will we all come together and say the war on drugs was a crime? These drugs are being put in our communities. these guns are being put in our communities by these companies. You know, this was a unjustified killing. This was an unjustified use of force. Those are the people that we need in these positions of political power. We don't need another great speaker, a great orator, another polished guy. We don't need any more of that. We need some people to take these positions and start speaking for the speaking for justice. We need black people to get on juries and start saying, wait a minute, something don't sound right here. I'm not gonna go along with this. Because there's no way that thousands of people could be wrongfully convicted by Doug Valeska. And not a single black person ever had a question about something they come across. We now see it was all manufactured. No one had a question. No judge, no prosecutor, no public defender, no juror, a black person nowhere that could have stopped that. No one. It's hard to believe. One black person on the jury is all it takes. So if Dr. King, Coretta Scott King, Fannie Lou Hamer, the women of the Black Power movement, the Black Panthers, Mary Chisholm, Cynthia McKinney, if all these people made these sacrifices so that we can be aware, so that the system could be exposed, so that we can protect our people from the system, why isn't it being done? Why? Why is a mentally ill person on death row in Alabama, the court just ruled that he can't be executed? Why is this man, how did he get on death row and he's so mentally ill that he can't be executed? If he's so mentally, the reason why he can't be executed because he can't remember the crime or what he's in prison for. So why is he in prison? Why is he still in prison? Why is the only relief he can get where you can't be executed? You know? And it's because we are not holding our black leaders accountable. We too busy worried about we too busy at the Bernie Sanders rally or the Hillary Clinton rally instead of at the rally of some of these black politicians and public leaders, holding them accountable. That's where our energy needs to be. You know, I think about myself sitting here in prison. I want to show y'all something just a second. When I went to trial, I had 2 black people on my jury. As y'all know, this is the document I keep with me because this is a ballistics memorandum and it shows the wrongfulness of my conviction. Just one document. I was convicted of murdering a man with a 9mm. I had a co-defendant testify that he witnessed me kill him with a 9mm. I had the chief medical examiner for the state of Alabama, a crime scene investigator, and a regular investigator all testified that this man was killed with the 9mm. This is the ballistics memorandum that the state withheld in my trial. And as y'all can see, it shows that this man was actually killed by someone with a .380 caliber weapon. They knew this when I went to trial. They knew this when all of those witnesses were lying on the witness stand against me. And during the course of my jury deliberations, they deliberated over one day, could not reach a verdict, came back, deliberated the next day some more. But during the course of my deliberations, because they had changed the cause of death for my case. They had changed the cause of death from asphyxiation. First they said the man was asphyxiated. They went and exhumed the body, pulled it out of the ground, changed the cause of death to gunshot. And then when we got to trial, they said the man was shot with a 9mm. And the whole time they were lying because they had manufactured all of that. And the jury sent out these 2 questions. This is page 708 from my trial transcript. And the jury said, I have been given a document containing 2 questions submitted by the jury, and that's a proper way to do it. If you have a question you cannot resolve, you should submit it to the court, and if I can address it, I will do so. Some things I am not able to address. He said there appears to be 2 questions. This is what my jury stopped their deliberation. The first question is, who informed the investigator or district attorney that the victim had been shot in the head? And the reason why they asked that is because, like I told you, autopsy had been performed. He had been ruled asphyxiated. No mention of gunshot. Somebody came along. They won't tell me who it is and say, okay, you got the cause of death wrong. This dude was shot. They went and exhumed the body, pulled it up, changed the cause of death, said he had been shot, got a new indictment, which I didn't find out till the day of trial. But they never told us, who is this? Where did you get this information from? So the first question the jury asked was, who told you that? The second question was, the second part of the sheet, can we see or review the autopsy reports? Neither autopsy report, the asphyxiation or the gunshot, ever came into my trial. Neither one of them. The jury never saw either one. The first question, the judge said, I have conferred with counsel as I am required to do, and upon doing it, it has been determined that there was no submission into evidence pertaining to this particular question, which was, who told y'all this man? Where did this information come from? Therefore, if there was some reference or comment or statement made by counsel, this issue addressed, then I remind you, a comment or statement are not evidence. The prosecutor was trying to say, well, we got it from such and such. And the lawyer objects, saying, no one ever testified to that. And the judge is just clarifying, there's never been any evidence of that. We did not receive any evidence pertaining to this particular question. To the second answer, when they wanted to know the second part, can we see or review the autopsy? Ladies and gentlemen, I will submit to you, you have received all of the exhibits that have been introduced. If that document is not in there, then unfortunately you are not able to review it. So I got 2 black jurors on my trial, on my jury. They're part of this process of asking these questions. So that means they already knew something was wrong. But they didn't be the vanguard from when Emmett Till was murdered and killed, and there were no blacks on the jury. Not guilty. Miller L. in Texas, he was also a black man convicted. No blacks on his jury. They excluded them all before the Batson rule. So no blacks on there. But he was wrongfully convicted. If blacks had been on that jury, they could have stopped it. If blacks had been on the Emmett Till jury panel, even though they would not have been able to convict, they could have hung the jury. No, we think he's guilty. We think he's guilty. Just one, a hung jury. You got to do it again. In my trial, we see the jury being suspicious, asking questions. But the vanguards didn't step up. And now, a year and a half after trial, I find this document. I find out they lied. I asked the prosecutors about that other question the state said. Where y'all get this information from about this gunshot? At first, during trial, in order to get the body out of the ground, they said, well, we got it from the co-defendant. And then the reason why it became an issue at trial, because the prosecutor had lied to us. He lied to me, he lied to my attorney, he lied to the judge, he lied to the jury, he lied to the grand jury, and told all of them the co-defendant provided it. When the co-defendant got on the witness stand and he was being cross-examined, he said, no, I didn't provide it. I never was talking to the state around that time. So that's when we found out all of it was premised on a lie. But we never found out the truth. So then we went back and said, well, where did it come from? And so now they changed their story and say, well, the police say they got it from the street. They didn't say where they got it from, and they don't have to. So that's still an unresolved question. But the point I'm making is, what was integration for? Why did those two black jurors not see this? Well, it's not why did they see it, because it's obvious that they saw it. They obviously saw something amiss. So why did we squander our capital? Why did we not become the vanguard that our ancestors fought for? And so, people like myself, I'm in solitary confinement right now. And this is my disciplinary. Well, this is the one that I came to solitary for. It's wrote by a black man. This is another disciplinary I got for doing what I'm doing right now, exposing the system, talking about the injustices of the system. I was doing an interview with a lady from HBO